I started gaining momentum and getting more of those little milestones, like just increased my confidence so much. And then I just started putting all of that energy that was going to drinking or going to recovering from drinking towards my dreams, towards connecting with others.
Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the Quantum Coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this. Welcome back, Badass Manifestors. I'm so pumped. I am so excited. We have an amazing guest today. Her name is Chelsea Holden. I'm going to share about her in a second. And we're going to talk about what it means to live a sober, curious life. I think that so many of us have this sober curiosity within us. And I've talked about it a little bit on my social media, never on the podcast, I don't think. And we've never had a guest who is an expert in this area. And I'm just so excited to bring Chelsea on. So let me introduce her. She is obviously a certified quantum life coach. She is a QCA graduate, which is super exciting. And she is a sober, curious mentor. So she's been sober for almost nearly 3 years. She just celebrated a huge milestone. And that one decision to take her sober curiosity to conscious application completely transformed her life. And now she's helping other entrepreneurs do the same. So she really is a coach, a mentor, a healer for sober entrepreneurs and believes in the power of self-mastery, utilizing multidimensional coaching, human design. She helps her clients uncover their unique energy to unlock their inner magic. And I can't wait for you to experience her magic today. So welcome to the Badass Manifestor podcast.
I am cheesing up so hard over here. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for the beautiful intro and for having me on. And it's always so awesome to be in your energy.
Oh, you too. You too. I mean, if you guys don't know Chelsea, like definitely follow her. Obviously you'll learn at the end where you can, but it's the same thing. It's your energy that's so magnetic. And I've always been so attracted to like your vibe. So, hey. So share a little bit about how you just celebrated, was it 999 days?
Yeah. So early last week, I celebrated 999 days of no alcohol. So that was a big milestone. I love my angel numbers, and 999 is the completion of a cycle generally. And so for me, that was just huge because it's like the old me, like I feel so settled in this new sober Chelsea, and it feels so good and grounding.
Wow. That's huge. Oh my God. I'm celebrating you in that so much. So tell a little bit about your story. Like, were you drinking alcohol every day? Were you an alcoholic? Like what was your life like? And how did you become this mentor? And, just share a little bit about your background.
Yeah, definitely. So I never considered myself an alcoholic. And I think that's a big part of my story and a part of the clients that I attract to. So to preface, like I grew up in South Texas. I grew up with a lot of people doing the same things. And a lot of what we did for fun was like hang out and party. I mean, that was the most of my high school. Plus we were really close to Mexico. So you could go down there and drink before you were 21. So needless to say, I started drinking socially probably around age 15. And then that just continued on all through my teens, all through my 20s, my 30s. And, I got to a point where I was bartending, and I would drink during the week if I was just hanging out with friends and socially. My husband and I actually met at a bar. I was bartending. And so alcohol was kind of like this thing, this other person, this other entity in my life for so long. And I tried quitting on my own for multiple times. The longest stint that I went without ever drinking was 6 months. And we were at a wedding in New Orleans, and I felt a little sad that I wasn't celebrating with everyone else with like a fancy cocktail or like a glass of champagne. And so I was like, you know what? We're in New Orleans. I had already been 6 months without alcohol. And I was like, I'll just do it and have fun. And that night went great, but that kind of like led me down the path to keep drinking. So, I think my drinking mostly was social, but it got to a point where it's what I did for fun. It was my quote unquote hobby. And it led me down a path of like having all these huge dreams and visions for my life and what I wanted to do and businesses I wanted to create. But because I leaned so heavily on this crutch to like numb out, to avoid feeling things, to have fun, it kept me from a lot of that. And it caused a lot of self-doubt and a lot of shame. And so my dreams just I always felt like I was taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. Like I was never making any kind of traction on anything. So fast forward, a few years later, after that 6-month period, I would quit for like a month and then start drinking again. Like it was always like I felt like I had a handle on it, and then I never would. And after that, I was just like, I'm done. I'm so fucking done. Like I pulled out a bunch of my journals from, previous years, and I went through them all, and I saw this pattern of just feeling really good, having a drink, and then feeling like complete shit afterwards. And, even saying to God, like, I'm done. I'm finally done this time, and all the little times when, I'd forget or have a blackout and get into an argument with my husband. And I knew for me that if I really wanted to make something of myself, if I really wanted to create a business that I knew was on my heart, and if I wanted my relationships to thrive and not just survive, that something had to change. So I made a power promise to myself, and I did it for 30 days. And I told myself, like, this is all I'm focusing on. I'm not going to worry about anything else. I'm not going to worry about exercising. I was still smoking cigarettes at the time. Like, everything else is not off the table. It's just alcohol for me. So I did 30 days, and then I made it through that. And then I did another 30 days, made it through that. And then it was like, okay, we're coming up on the 90-day mark. And then, I started gaining momentum and getting more of those little milestones, like just increased my confidence so much. And then I just started putting all of that energy that was going to drinking or going to recovering from drinking towards my dreams, towards connecting with others. And it's been the biggest gift of my life. It's been the biggest gift that I've given myself, to literally cut out the alcohol. Pretty awesome.
Wow, that is pretty awesome. What an inspiring story and so real of like being able to, I think that fight with yourself of like, okay, you can do it. Like, it's okay. Like giving yourself those little permissions that actually were the sabotage that like, got you hooked back into the loop. I think that it's so common for people to feel those like that, like push pull with yourself, but I'm curious for you, what was initially the reason you wanted to stop? Was it because you knew it was getting in the way of everything you wanted, or because you just weren't feeling happy with yourself? or was it something else?
I think it was a combination of both, really. Like I think it was like the external thing that was keeping me from everything that I wanted. Not to
Mhm.
mention it was affecting my relationships, especially my marriage, which is I hold near and dear. And then it was me. I had to look at myself, and the amount of negative self-talk and just how much I would beat myself up afterwards, like it wasn't serving me. Like it
Mhm.
just was not, there was no place for it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was no joy in it
Oh
anymore.
God, no, no. And I would convince myself that there was, right? Like if we were going to go out, we love live music. So like going out to live music or going to music festivals is huge for us. So, it was scary to feel like, well, what the hell am I going to do? Like what I always talk to people about, it's always like I'm standing at a party. It's like, well, I don't know what the hell to do with my hands. What do I do with my hands if I'm not holding a drink or like constantly,
Yeah.
drinking? But I had to believe enough in myself and believe enough in this whisper that kept repeating itself over, like, Chelsea, it's time to give it up. Chelsea, it's time to give it up, and just really lean into that and trust. And for me, like, get curious about it. Like,
Right.
I
Right.
I
So
know what life is like on this side. Like I've lived it for, 35, 36 years. Like, what's it going to be like on the other side?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just define what being sober curious means for people listening that are like, I drink alcohol socially. I don't have a problem with it. Yeah, I don't like how I feel, but like, what does it mean to be like sober curious?
Yeah. So for me, it means just like blatantly that, like getting curious about sobriety and getting curious about what sobriety looks like for you. I think when we hear the word sober, it feels very black and white. It feels like all or nothing. And for me, that was something, it took me a while to call myself sober because I was just alcohol free, and as I said in the beginning, nothing else was off the table for me. Now I'm strictly no alcohol, and I partake in plant medicine because I believe in the benefits of it. So I think for being sober curious, it really is just getting curious of what life can look like when you start to eliminate these things that you have been holding on to for so long, whether that be alcohol. Maybe for you that is, you're smoking too much weed and it's making you lazy. I mean, it can be a combination of so many different things. But I do believe that we all are so freaking powerful. And when you don't feel like you have a problem and you just do it socially, I like to use yourself as like an experiment, like, just really have fun with it. And I think diving into these curiosities of life can just open up so many different worlds for you. So like really just pulling the curtains back and asking yourself, like, what's possible if I don't have this in my life? Like, what's possible in my relationships? What's possible for my line of work without having this veil of alcohol to be that crutch, to be that opportunity for, what you are perceiving to be fun. Like, what else can fun look
Yes.
like?
100. I was just gonna say, like, I feel like I had that realization of like, it is a crutch for fun it was a
Mm,
being a crutch for fun in my life. And it was a crutch for connection,
yeah.
where it's like you think you're connecting with people, but you're actually just really drunk and like you're not actually connecting with people. And for me personally, I noticed that when I would feel uncomfortable, it was a crutch for comfort. So, like
Yeah.
in certain social situations with certain people, I would find myself drinking more and even eating more because I felt so uncomfortable. And that was my cue to kind of go inward and say to myself, like, you know, what, like you just said, what will this open up if you just eliminate this
Yeah.
totally?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people resonate with that. I know when I've talked to clients and I've talked to other people that are on this journey as well, like, it's how we socialize. It's how we network as entrepreneurs. It's
Yeah.
alcohol is how we celebrate, right? And how, like you said, connect. It's this social lubricant. And I think that for some, like my husband, for example, he still drinks and he can function properly, at least, from what he sees, right? It's his journey, not mine. But you know, some people can just have like one or two drinks and call it a day. That was not my case, right? And I know that that's not the case for so many people. And, like what you said with regards to like having this feeling of being uncomfortable, or you're in a room of strangers, right? You're at a networking event. And so you order wine or you order, champagne or whatever, like, but you're not really showing up fully as yourself. Like that's how I see it, right? You have this, I mean, it's called spirit for a reason, right? Alcohol is called spirit for a reason. And I really believe that you're ingesting something else in you. And so you're not 100% authentic. And if you're awkward, then be awkward and be okay with that. Like, I still go to events and find myself a lot more introverted than what I used to be. But for me now, it's more of just like, I love observing people. I love watching others and just like, I take it all in and I feel so much more present in the moment. And that's where all the magic happens too.
So true. It's so true. I'm really glad you said the spirit thing and like ingesting that, because actually I read this book. It's called Quit Like a Woman. Have you ever read it? It's really good. And don't read it if you really aren't interested in quitting, because it really like it really opened my eyes, and basically, just about ingesting poison basically.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Like you are ingesting something it is a spirit. It's a low vibrational entity. And I think that the work that you do is so great and so important because, I don't believe you have to be sober, right? And if you're an entrepreneur and alcohol is getting in the way and you're trying to raise your vibration, but then you're drinking wine every night and you're lowering your vibration. So it's like, it's a vibrational game too. Can you just speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, 1000%. Like you're so spot on with that. Like in that vibrational game, right? When we want to be so high vibe and we're manifesting all these amazing things. And then, like you said, we have this drink and it lowers our vibration, like we're instantly meeting resistance. And in that resistance, that's where we start to self-doubt. That's where, we are putting up a wall, and that's where the blocks are coming from, right? This is where our manifestations stay in the vortex around us and they don't come into the reality, or not as quickly or as easily as we know that they can. So again, we just perpetuate this, self-sabotage over and over again. And for what? And for what? For a glass of wine at night because you need to calm down or you need to relax. Like, I'm sorry, but I feel like that's bullshit. And I think the more that we take 100% responsibility for how we're showing up in our lives, the more we get to clean it up and raise our vibration, and it takes time. It takes time. And that's why having support in whatever form that is so beneficial.
Yeah. Having that accountability and someone to connect with. Like, I'm sure your clients come to you in moments where they feel like maybe it's okay to have a drink and they just need that like little pep talk, or maybe they're celebrating themselves because they launched something in their business and they didn't have to celebrate with alcohol. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many moments where it can show up. I remember for me, I was at a holiday dinner and it was kind of like right before I was starting another IVF cycle. And someone close to me was pouring wine and was like, you can have some, it's fine. Like, it's fine. And I'm like, in those moments, I usually would have bent and I usually would have been like, it's fine. You're right. Like, whatever. It's a glass of wine. It won't hurt me. But I stood my ground and I'll never forget it. I was like, no, like I'm not doing that. And it felt so good. And also I know how hard it can be when you have family members or people in your life that like just say, it's fine. A glass of wine's not going to hurt you, or a drink's not going to hurt you. Like, oh, you're not fun anymore. Like the peer pressure side of it can be really hard.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That is one of the biggest things that we work on, right? Is we become the biggest mirror for people. And there is so much projection that happens when you say no, when you
Oh
say
my
no to
God. I
drinking.
love that you just said that you become the biggest mirror for people. That is so spot on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. And I see it all the time. And I've come to embrace this part of it. And I feel like it's a big superpower now. Whereas before I was always like, what the hell? Like I can't just walk into a room and not drink without somebody like saying something about it. But it's only because I'm reflecting something back in them that they've already been questioning. And, sometimes people will be receptive to it. Sometimes people will be really supportive of it. Other times they may not say anything and they're going to walk away with that question still lingering inside them somewhere. Like subconsciously, you've just triggered them. And I feel like that's a huge superpower. Like it really is.
Whoa, that is a mic drop moment. Like that needs to be whoever edits this podcast. Like, we got the clip. That's the clip. Like we got it. Oh, that's so potent and so true. I mean, hopefully this podcast episode does that for people.
I hope so. Before we got on to, that was my prayer that this show just sparks something in you. It really gets you to question, it really taps into your curiosity. Because here's what I want to say, like, there's a huge world out there. There's so much potential out there, like limitless possibilities, and there's so much untapped magic and untapped potential that alcohol is keeping you from, in my opinion. And even if you just get curious, and even if you just quit for 30 days, for 60 days, for 90 days, I would love to just know what that does for you.
Mm-hmm.
In the clarity of thoughts that you'll have, your body sensations, like coming back into your body, starting to actually feel things again. Like, and I think that's what's scary for people, is like the feeling of the things, right?
Yeah. The feeling of even the discomfort that you feel when you're not drinking.
Yeah.
And like, just to kind of say here for anyone who might be thinking like, questioning, like I love how Chelsea uses the word curiosity, like get curious with yourself, because there's no right or wrong, right? It's like, it's not wrong if you drink alcohol, if that's what you choose and you feel aligned with it, right? It's not right if you quit. It doesn't matter. It's not about that. It's about your highest good and your highest alignment and your highest curiosity. And like, you couldn't have said it better. Just getting curious with yourself.
Yeah.
And I know I chose Thanksgiving, and I said, this is one night of the year that I know that I always drink like at least 3 to 4 glasses of wine. And then I feel like shit the next day, like shit, obviously. I mean, well, not obviously, but I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pick this day to just get curious about what would be possible if I don't do the pattern that I've done every other year.
That's it. And that's it. It's breaking the pattern, right? It's breaking the pattern. It's like interrupting it and shaking shit up, because that's what we're here to do. And growth is on the other side of that. So again, like if you don't stick with it, that's fine. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you wrong. It's just a matter of looking at what's possible from doing something different, from taking a different action and going down a different road. You'll always end up exactly where you're supposed to be. It's just a matter of trusting enough in yourself that the decisions that you make are going to be right. And if you feel like you're off track from where you desire to be, well, something needs to shift. So why not get curious about this?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I do think that alcohol, if you're alcohol or any substance that's not in alignment with you, it can definitely be keeping you from your dreams. Like when I used to smoke weed, like back in the day, I mean, as much as I liked it, I didn't use it medicinally. I didn't use it with intention. I was just using it.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely, I could have started my business so much sooner. I could have actually like made an impact so much sooner if I would have stopped sooner.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you said impact too. Like I feel the same way. Like I could have been way further down the road had I, made that choice a long time ago, but I'm exactly where I need to be. And I trust
Yeah.
in that and in the divine timing of it. And also start with impacting yourself. Start with
Mm,
impacting yourself and those around you. Right. And all it takes is one choice. All it takes is one choice, like
yeah.
one decision, and going at it day by day. Like, that was huge for me. Like people would ask me, are you never going to drink again? And I'm like, I have no idea. I really have no idea. And I'm not going to put that pressure on myself because
Right.
that's what I've done in the past and it didn't work. It's like trying to say you want to lose 20 pounds, before the summer or whatever. That's so much freaking pressure to put on yourself. Like, why not just choose to feel better? And for me, that's what giving up alcohol was, a conscious choice I just desire to feel better. I
Yeah.
desire to see where I can take my body. I desire to see where my relationships are going to thrive and where some may fall off, and be okay with that. I desire to know if there's other blocks that I need to work through, or get to work through rather, because I haven't put up this lubricant of alcohol in my life. There's a whole world out there. Like, it's so cool. It's so
Yeah.
cool. And
It is.
it's like becoming, I feel like it's really starting to normalize a lot. And that just gets me so freaking excited. Like there's so many things that we can do without having alcohol. Like there's so many more like available non-alcoholic beverages out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd love to see, more there in Austin. There's a bar called Sands Bar, and it's purely mocktails, but it's so people can still socialize the way that they're used to, just without alcohol. Like, and for me, that was a big thing. I was a bartender for so long. So it's like, what's my social life going to look like when I'm
Yeah.
not doing this? Now I'm at a point where like I can go to a bar and like sit next to people drinking, and it doesn't affect me at all. Other people, that it may still trigger them and cause things. And again, that's why you have support. But I have this vision for changing the way that entrepreneurs network and socialize and celebrate and unwind. Like, I believe it's out there.
100%. That's so beautiful. I have this like weird vision sometimes when you really think about it. Like you said, like, I mean, bars are everywhere. Like,
Mhm.
it's just like the centerpiece of a wedding is the bar. Like, it's just like, it's so interesting how it's this centerpiece in our lives.
Yeah.
And I always would think to myself, what would it be if it wasn't that? Like what could be there instead? Like,
Yeah.
who knows? I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I mean, mocktails is a good start. It's just like, what would it be? I'm sure there's like other planets that exist that don't have alcohol. What's theirs?
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like weird thoughts. Yeah.
I love that. I love thinking about that.
Um, couple questions, but I also wanted to say that I've been to a few sober weddings. Like me
Mm.
personally, I was sober. Everybody else wasn't, but I'm sure some other people were. But I was sober, and the first one was really, really hard, really hard. And the second one was the time of my life.
Mm.
It was crazy. It was like there was actually like a lot involved with like just I picked the dress that made me feel the sexiest, and I picked, you know, I chose myself, and I chose not to dim my light, and I wasn't drinking, and I just felt like amazing. I felt
Mm.
amazing. And at that wedding, I said to myself, like, I could do this. I could do this. And I feel like if we could have those moments where we can prove to ourselves, like, you can do this, you
Yeah.
know? What would you say for people listening that are now sober curious? Maybe they weren't before. And if Chelsea turned to you, sober curious, you have to let us know.
Please.
Um, what would you say? Like, what are some tips just to get started, like really chunk down step by steps, like where would somebody just start? Like maybe they're going out to dinner tonight and they're like going to drink alcohol. Like, I don't know. Where would they
Yeah.
start?
Yeah. Great question. Great question. And also, thank you for sharing about the two weddings and like the different dynamics of that. Right. So I would say the first place to start is like setting your intention. Like truly just, I love starting all my programs and all my coaching with like really set your intention. Like, what is it that you hope to gain out of this? So let's say use the example of you're going out to dinner. Like, so set the intention, like, I'm going to get curious and see what dinner looks like tonight without me drinking. And then the next step I would say is to, if you're going out with like your partner, your spouse, or a friend, like maybe you want to share that with them, maybe you don't. You have to know the person on the other side to know if they're going to be supportive or if they're not. If you feel like they're going to, give you shit for it, then obviously keep it to yourself. But if you feel like this is something that you want to dive into a little more, then seek out that support and share that with somebody, so they don't tempt you and they don't make you feel bad or guilty for not drinking. And then it's a matter of preparing yourself. What are you going to order instead? My go-to at bars is like Topo Chico. I don't know if they have that everywhere, but they have it everywhere in Texas. So, or like club soda and lime. I loved margaritas. So like I'll even get club, like a dressed glass with like salt and lime. So like, what are you going to have instead? Because you may find that it's going to be awkward if other people around you are constantly drinking and you're just sitting with water. If water feels boring, then don't do that to yourself. Like church it up a little bit, you get to do that. So it's always about preparation, in my opinion. Like, I think when we fail to plan these things, like, we're setting ourselves up for failure in a sense. Like if you're going to a big wedding, if you're going to anything, like, what are you going to do? Because the time's going to come and you are going to be tempted. So how are you going to prepare?
So good. Actually, I forgot to mention that on that Thanksgiving, I did buy non-alcoholic wine, and that made me feel prepared.
Yeah. And it makes you feel like you're still part of the conversation, essentially, right? Like, of course, it's not going to taste 100% like the alcoholic, like the real thing, but it's a nice alternative. And like, I would say the last thing of that is like, think about everything good that will come because you made this choice to not drink, even if it's just for the night, right? Like, so you avoided 300 to 500 calories per margarita because you drink soda water instead, right? Like, so the calories that you save, the hangover free day the next day, or maybe 2 days, the money. Yeah, exactly. So like, I mean, I think about how much money I used to spend every weekend, like, and really getting curious too, like, how is it okay for me to go out on a weekend and drop $100 to $200 and feel like that's okay? But when it comes to investing in myself with buying a course or with a coach, like $100 to $200 feels like I don't deserve that. Like, that's so backwards. You don't get that time back. You don't get that, like, yeah, maybe you had a fun time, but do you really remember all of it? Were you really present? Whereas, you can take that money and invest it in a way that's going to evolve you and grow you. So really it is. So I think I got like 4 ways.
And I just want to circle back to like the last tip you gave about like, think about yourself like the next day. Like that's your future self.
Yes.
And your future self will thank you. I've woken up so many mornings, not hungover because I chose not to drink. And I was like, I feel so good. I'm so grateful. I feel so good. I feel so great. Like, I just feel like my energy was just like, wow, you're awesome. Like, I just felt awesome. I really did. I was like patting myself on the back big time.
Yeah, totally. What will your future self thank you for doing for the choices that you made today? Like, yeah, it's such a good question. And another like rule of thumb is just 1% better. Like, how can you show up 1% better in this area in your life, And maybe you're used to drinking hard liquor, and maybe for you, it's just cutting back to beer. I have a client that was her. She knows like drinking whiskey is going to lead to making other bad decisions. So she just drinks beer, and that's great. Like, that's great if that's what's working for you. It's always like these 1% little shifts that we can make in our life that build the momentum to creating the massive change that we're hoping to seek.
So good. So good. So what makes you a badass manifester?
I knew you were going to ask me this question too. And I was like, oh, I'm going to think about it, but no, I'll just like tune in. What makes me a badass manifester? I think it's really just being open and following my curiosities, like really being open and following the curiosity of what is possible for my life, who, and asking, like, how can I serve? Like, how can I serve? Because I believe that when I ask, how can I serve, the universe is like, how can I serve you? And here you go.
Totally. 100%. So tell me what it looks like, and tell us, all of us, what it looks like if someone is curious about working with you, as far as like, how do I know, how does someone know if they need or want a sober, curious coach and mentor?
Yeah, the best way is to hop on a breakthrough call.
Yeah.
And we just hop on a free 30-minute call. And it really is just a matter of us getting to be in each other's energy. And really, like, that's when I will ask you, like, why is it that you want this? Or how is alcohol or these other substances like manifesting in your life right now?
Yeah.
So getting on a call, and then from there, I have different ways that we can work together and different packages that we can work together. We can do private coaching one-on-one where we meet every week. We can do just Voxer coaching, which is the walkie-talkie app, and I absolutely love that. And that one's obviously more affordable for people too. Plus, I include Voxer with my private coaching because, especially when it comes to sobriety, we need that like accountability in the moment.
Yeah.
And so that's what exactly, and that's what's helpful. So those are the best ways.
And like, if someone is listening and they're like, well, how do I, like, is it someone that feels, even if you don't feel like you have a drinking problem, but you just have a curiosity, like, it's still worth following.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was me. Like, I felt like I had a problem, but I, again, didn't consider myself an addict. So maybe you're there, or maybe you're just like, I don't know if I have a problem or not.
Yeah.
I do like to drink, but also I feel like there's more I want out of life. And I just don't know what's holding me back from that too. So
what would you say is like the biggest thing that has opened up for you personally since being sober?
oh my God,
I know there's so many.
there's so many. The I will say what has gone away, and not completely, because I don't think it ever goes away completely, but is the self-doubt. The
Yeah.
self-doubt and the lack of belief in myself has gone away. So really a lot of the lack mentality. But what's the biggest thing for me is being able to serve people in this way and showing others, like being an example of, no, it's so possible. It's possible to still be badass, to still be fun, to still, enjoy life without it, without alcohol, without everything else. So yeah, it's opened up so much. I mean, it's opened up relationships. Like, I'm here on this podcast with you. I got certified as a quantum coach, and that was so huge for me. And I made so many connections, and I really don't believe that any of that would have been possible, because I would have been holding on to the doubt, and I wouldn't have invested in myself, so the ripple effect is just huge.
Your whole life is changed. Like, you totally switched careers. Like,
yeah. And not to mention, like, the navigating, like, just different hardships or different, things. Like, I started my business, my husband started his business, like, and then there was hardships in our life, and the way that we handled that looks so different than it had before. So yeah.
wow. Oh my God. I have the chills. Yeah. Chelsea, This was such a good conversation.
Thank
I
you.
feel like everyone who's listening, their wheels are turning, which is,
Yeah,
I know, your goal. So where can
definitely.
everyone continue to be supported by you and connect with you?
Yeah, I love Instagram. I live on Instagram, so just come find me over there at the Chelsea Holden, and yeah, just give me a follow, shoot me a DM. Like, just I genuinely just want to be supportive and let you know that you're not alone, like
Yeah.
totally not alone, and that anything is possible, and we can do it together. And yeah, and I'm so freaking grateful. Like, this was so much fun. It was so
So
much
fun.
fun and
So
so
fun.
amazing. And I'm excited to see what comes of this, you know?
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I mean, I can definitely say, like, I know that Chelsea's an incredible coach, an incredible space holder. And so if you are thinking about, booking a call, you have nothing to lose. It's a 30-minute call. Definitely follow your gut and follow your heart and follow your curiosity.
Yeah,
On
100%.
that note, have a beautiful day, everyone. And tag us and let us know what resonated with you the most. We'd love to hear it.
Yay.
Bye. Woo! We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram at ManifestWithAsh. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get 'em.